What's going on, people? This is Derek J407 here to give you my thoughts on New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 12 event on January 4th, 2018, live from the Tokyo Dome. First big video of the year for me, talking about what's becoming a great tradition every single year now at the beginning of the year, watching these Wrestle Kingdom shows. It's not something that I've done a whole lot before a few years ago. And, each year, January 4th comes around and I stay up. And, I don't know how often I'm going to be doing the whole staying up all night thing, maybe, now I'm getting older. I'm going to back off of that. But I do enjoy watching the show, and this one was no exception. Once again, New Japan, I think they have it under lock and key, having the best show of the year in any wrestling company. If this turns out to not be the best wrestling show of the entire year, then we are going to be in for a very good year of wrestling all around. Because this was a great show, top to bottom. Not a perfect show, but it was a fantastic show with a lot of great matches, including the two main events, which were both really, really good. The double main event there, both really good matches, and a few really good undercard matches. Some not so great, but some that were really good, and some that were fantastic. So, let's just go through this show, and we'll dissect things as much as possible. Now, some things I have a lot more detail on than others because, I don't know. I don't know. My note taking for this show was a little off, I'll be honest, but I do have the results at least. Some matches I can go into greater detail on than others, but we'll go through it. First off, on the pre-show, the annual New Japan Rumble, they have all the big surprises and all that kind of stuff, including Cheeseburger, who made a surprise entrance in this Rumble. It all came down to Masahito Kakihara, who was the last man standing and got the win, so big win for him. We move on to the main show, and it opened up with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match between Roppongi 3K, the champions, Sho and Yo, with Rocky Romero in their corner, taking on the Young Bucks, of course, Matt and Nick Jackson. A great match, a fun opener, back and forth tag team match. It's a Young Buck match, and you're either gonna love that or you're gonna hate that. I know on commentary, Don Callis. Commentary was done by Don Callis and Kevin Kelly. I believe Don Callis, stated that the Young Bucks are the greatest tag team in the world right now. And I know not everyone's going to like hearing that. I know some people who are not as big of fans of the Young Bucks. I know there's people who flat out hate the Young Bucks, but they are one of the best tag teams in the world. Whether they are the best, I know that's up for debate, but I definitely like them. And I definitely like that they won here. They got the victory here, so they are once again the IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions. I believe this is their 7th reign as champions, so big win for them. And then moving on to the 6-man Never Open Weight Tag Team Championship gauntlet match. What was it, like 5 or so teams in this match? So I'll just list the participants. Of course, the champions going in were the Bullet Club, Bad Luck Fale and Tama Tonga and Tamaroa and all that kind of stuff. But I'll list the other competitors as they came out. And so starting out the match, we had Suzuki Gun, which was comprised of Taichi, Takahashi Iizuka, and of course Zack Sabre Jr. And they started out with War Machine, Hanson and Rowe, and Michael Elgin. So a pretty physical start here. I know people on Twitter, at least on my timeline, were in their fuck Michael Elgin mood after all the recent stories that have come out about Michael Elgin over the past few weeks. Can't say I blame them, but I don't really know enough about all that stuff to have that same mindset as those people, but whatever. Of course, War Machine and Elgin lost, not because of Elgin, but more so because of War Machine. I'm pretty sure they're going to be on their way out soon. I think it was Sabre Jr. He got the choke out on Rowe. I think he had him like an arm bar and then transitioned into like some kind of triangle choke kind of thing. He ended up choking him out, and the big men were eliminated first. Fully expect War Machine to start with the NXT probably by the end of the month. Either at TakeOver in Philadelphia, Royal Rumble weekend, or the tapings afterwards. But either way, I'm pretty sure they're going to be starting with the company soon. So the match continued on from there, and out next came the team of Chaos, that being Beretta, Tomohiro Ishii, and Toru Yano, who of course is the resident comedy character in New Japan. His comedy is hit and miss when it's used in the right places. It was working in this match for the few things that he was able to do. He ended up eliminating Suzuki Gun when Yano gave Tai Chi a low blow, and so they got eliminated. And out next came Taguchi Japan, which was comprised of Juice Robinson, Togi Makabe, and Taguchi, of course. He's the coach. So they went at it for a little bit. Makabe, he started this weird thing where he was getting fired up. I think he had just made the hot tag, and he was getting really fired up, and he looked like he was imitating Nakamura. He was doing all the mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. And so when he was going for the I guess here in New Japan, the Bomaye knee, he was going for that on Yano. Yano caught him and rolled him up and eliminated them. So they were out. And then out came the champions. The baby faces, Yano, Beretta, and Ishii against the Bullet Club here at the end. And one big spot was Tamaloa. He did this really brutal like fireman's carry on Beretta. Like he fireman carried Beretta on the ring apron, and it looked like he just launched him like right into the ropes and ring apron. It looked brutal. Tangaloa was definitely a beast at that point. They built up to a spot where Ishii, the little kind of butterball Ishii, he was able to suplex Fale. And if you don't know who Bad Luck Fale is, he is a big motherfucker. And Tomohiro Ishii, he's strong, but he's pretty small too. So the sight of seeing him just by himself suplex him like that was pretty cool. Tamatanga, he ended up catching Beretta midair with the gun stun, but that was not enough to keep Beretta down. He eventually got back up, and he hit the Dude Buster on Tonga and got the 1-2-3. So Beretta, Ishii, and Yano are the new 6-man never open weight tag team champions. So really fun match. I enjoyed it for the most part, and that was that. Up next, we had the first singles match in the lone, non-championship match. No title involved at all in this match. Had Cody retain the ROH championship last month against Dalton Castle, final battle, I'm sure this match probably would have been for the Ring of Honor title, but that was not to be. So this ended up being the only match on the show without a championship involved, and that being Cody versus Kota Ibushi. Easily the best Cody Rhodes match I have ever seen, at least singles match wise. This was definitely the best Cody Rhodes match that I've seen up to this point. I remember he had a really good match against Okada last summer. I think that was that New Japan show that aired in the US. But aside from that, he's had a lot of good matches, but nothing like really great and stand out, 5-star. Well, I mean, I don't really care about stars, but it's like just a really great standout match. I haven't really seen Cody have that yet, and he had it here, and that's a lot in part thanks to Kota Ibushi, who is just fantastic and someone who I definitely enjoy watching. So throughout the match, Brandy Rhodes, she was, of course, Cody's wife. She was being, a pain in the ass, interfering constantly. At one point, when Ibushi did like a dive, either through or over the ropes, whatever, he dove to the outside. He knocked down Cody, but he also knocked down Brandy. It looked like she was playing dead. It looked like she was down, and Ibushi picked her up. He was about to carry her away, and then Cody came out of nowhere and just cold cocked the fuck out of him and knocked him down. And then you could see a shot of Cody and Brandy kind of laughing together on the ground. So they had that, kind of thing. And she did other stuff to kind of distract Ibushi here and there. So she was a bit of a distraction out there for the most part. The biggest spot of this match, and one of the most brutal spots of the entire night, and that's saying something, we saw Cody so both men were on the ring apron, and Cody hit the crossroads from the apron all the way to the floor, which looked absolutely brutal, cause the way it looked, Ibushi got his head spiked into the ground, and of course they played up the whole neck injury thing for him, the surgically repaired neck and all that kind of stuff. So that was a pretty freaky spot. They teased the count out loss, but Ibushi managed to get back in the ring. So he managed to get back. They fought some more, a lot more great back and forth action between the two of them, but in the end, Ibushi hit his high knee. I sound like Michael Cole, talking about Seth Rollins. I'm sure it has a name. Just like I'm sure Rollins, it has to have a name at this point, right? But it's just the knee, I'm sure. But he hits him with the knee, and he goes up, hits Cody with the Phoenix Splash, and gets the win. So a triumphant comeback from the babyface, Kota Ibushi, and he knocks down Cody. And where Cody goes from here, I'm not sure. Up next, we had the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. We had the Killer Elite Squad, which is Lance Archer and Davey Boy Smith, taking on Los Ingobernables de Japón, which was Evil and Sonata. The Killer Elite Squad, I guess they have that name for a reason. I was not completely familiar with this team, and they came out here just a bunch of assholes. Lance Archer, who of course is a former WWE superstar, as well as Davey Boy Smith is, both of them. Archer came out, just spitting water at people, not the Triple H way, the literal, sipping water and going around people in the crowd and spitting water in their faces and their general direction. And that's pretty gross. I can imagine being kind of pissed off about that kind of stuff. So the match started, and right from the bell, the Killer Elite Squad just went on the offense. They just started dominating everything. They managed to hit their finisher, the Killer Bomb, on Evil, like within the first few seconds of the match. But of course, Sonata broke it up. Then they started brawling to the outside, and then they started to beat up the young boys out there. Of course, the ring crew and all that kind of stuff, the guys in training and all that kind of stuff. I know it sounds weird to say that these two grown men started beating up young boys. I know that I can imagine that sounds very weird, but no, that's their title. They're training, in the New Japan Dojo and all that kind of stuff, and their title is young boys. They're not actual young boys. But, so they started to get their asses kicked. And they got back in the ring, and I think it was Lance Archer. He, chokeslammed Evil from the ring to the outside onto the rest of the crowd. The young boys. Again, sounds weird, but I don't know, that's what they're called. So the Killer Elite Squad, they were pretty much dominant throughout the entire match, and it was Evil and Sonata, who we usually see as the heels, kind of dominant and all that kind of stuff. They were the ones playing the baby faces in peril kind of role here, so that was pretty weird. At one point, I think it was Lance Archer, he hit a Spanish fly to Evil from the top rope, which was impressive as all hell. You gotta picture how big Evil is, and you gotta picture how big Lance Archer is. Like, these are two big guys, and to see him hit a damn near pitch perfect Spanish fly off the top rope like that, that's pretty damn impressive. They managed to hit the killer bomb again on Sonata, but he kicked out at 2. And Sonata eventually hit a diving moonsault onto Davey Boy and to get the win for him and Evil. So Evil and Sonata are the new IWGP Tag Team Champions. I thought this was going to be a clean sweep for Los Ingobernables, but it did not turn out that way by the end of the show. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Up next, we had a pretty unique match, one that I was looking forward to, not as much as the 2 main events, but it was still a match that I was looking forward to nonetheless. It was a hair versus hair, no seconds death match for the Never Openweight Championship. Minoru Suzuki taking on Hiroki Goto. So this has been a big feud going on in New Japan for a while now, and it got to a point where Goto offered to put up his hair just to get another shot at the championship and Suzuki. And here's what we got here. They promised that no members of their respective factions would be at ringside. Of course, you can't make promises like that. But nevertheless, that was the promise going in. And of course, the loser would get their head shaved bald or just get their hair cut. So right off the bat, just like the previous match, a pretty quick start. Both men were in the top rope, and Suzuki just started choking out Goto. He just straight flat out started choking him out. The referee was saying stuff, I believe it was Red Shoes who was the ref for this match. He was saying stuff, telling him to get off of him and doing all that kind of stuff, but he just choked him out, and Goto just looked dead. He looked completely like a corpse from that point, and for a little while there, Suzuki was just beating his ass. Like, he was just beating up a dead body pretty much. Just like you think of that Simpsons meme, like, stop, he's already dead, But eventually Goto, started to fight back, and it was a pretty stiff fight back and forth, probably the stiffest match on the show, which is Hiroki Goto in there, so that's kind of what you expect. And of course, Minoru Suzuki, who's pretty stiff in there too. Speaking of Suzuki has just an incredible theme song. He really does. It needs to be the theme of an anime. I just don't know what anime. I don't know. I'm not completely 100% familiar with every single anime. I think, for me, it's like Cowboy Bebop and Full Metal Alchemist and that kind of stuff. That's kind of where it starts and stops for me. But, I'm pretty sure his theme song could fit some kind of show. My Hero Academia, that too. Then it got to a point where, Suzuki just started slapping the fuck out of Hiroki Goto. Like, there was just a spot where he just started slapping him. Just rapid slaps to his face and his chest and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty brutal. Again, it looked like he was dead. But eventually, Goto managed to, hit him with a inverted GTR, I think from behind, and then he got him in the proper way for the GTR and got the win. So, Hiroki Goto got the win here. I believe, during the match, at one point, Suzuki Gun, Minoru Suzuki's faction, they came out at ringside. Of course, they were banned. Everyone was, but they managed to get out there eventually. But they didn't have that much of an impact regardless, because, Goto still got the win. After the match, Suzuki Gun, they came back. They tried to take Suzuki away to avoid getting his head shaved, but once Suzuki woke up and realized what was happening, because he was kind of out of it there, once he realized that he was being taken away, he kind of pushed him aside. He went back Goto already had a chair in the ring, but Suzuki came in, brought his own chair, knocked Goto's chair out of the way, sat it down, and he took the clippers, the razor from Goto, and started to shave his own head. He managed to get like I don't know what it's called, the ponytail or whatever, the like the the mullet in the back, I guess it is. Like, Suzuki barely has hair as it is, so I don't know exactly what he was shaving off, and he still didn't really shave all that much off, but you know, he shaved enough off and he threw the clippers back at him, so that was pretty badass. So great stiff match, and got to see somebody get their head shaved, so that was pretty cool. Up next was a treat. I'm sure in the coming days it'll probably become more controversial, but for what it was here, I thought it was pretty fun. It was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match, Fatal 4-Way match. The champion, Marty Scurll, who is completely over with a lot of girls on my Twitter timeline, who had some very unique reactions to Marty Scurll. I don't get to see Twitter that much whenever I get to watch Marty Scurll, like on Ring of Honor and all that kind of stuff. So I was not aware of just how much in love people were with this guy, but that was very eye-opening for me. So it was him defending the championship against Will Ospreay, Hiromu Takahashi, and Kushida. Of course, Takahashi had Daryl the Cat at his side. Daryl was wearing a mask, so I thought that was cool. And Scurll, his entrance involved wings. He came out with the wings. It looked cool. It definitely looked cool. And speaking of cool, that basically describes what this match was. From bell to bell, this was a fun match. I just saw a lot of the moves in this match and thought, those same people who complain about how wrestling's so choreographed now and it's just, a bunch of spots and all that kind of stuff. There was definitely, sections of this match that could probably qualify for being described in that way. But I still had a good time. Everybody, managed to get some time to shine, and there was some unique stuff happening in this match. At one point, Scurll, he was hiding like some kind of case under the ring or something like that, and he pulled out some wrestling tape and he tied Takahashi to the guardrail on the outside. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he snapped his fingers, which, of course, Marty Scurll does the whole snapping the fingers thing, and so he snapped his fingers. Ospreay and Kushida were fighting up on the top rope in the ring. Scurll got in there. He got up with them. He tried to go after both of their fingers, but instead they targeted his fingers. And I think it was Kushida who snapped Skrull's fingers and knocked him down. Later on, Marty, he went back to that same case with the tape, and he pulled out some powder. So, like, their first aid kit includes wrestling tape and cocaine, apparently. So he got the powder and he threw it in Kushida's face, but Kushida managed to not get too badly affected by it and hit the Back to the Future move. But of course, Takahashi, he came back in, he escaped, and he just started laying out everyone. People who were on the ring apron, he laid them out with like sunset bombs onto the outside. So he was running roughshod for a little bit there. But in the end, Marty Scurll, he managed to use his umbrella. So I believe it was Takahashi, he laid out Kushida with the time bomb, I believe it was. And he laid him out, and he was going for the 1, 2, 3, but the ref got pulled out by Scurll, and then that's when he started to use his umbrella on Takahashi and Kushida. He was going for it on Ospreay, but Ospreay moved out of the way, and he ended up hitting the Os Cutter and got the win. So a big win for Will Ospreay. He broke his curse of losing. here, and he got a big championship win here. So a really fun match. My commentary doesn't really do it justice. It was a really fun match here. And like I said, there were some spots in there that, you could say are choreographed. Spots and matches have been choreographed for many years. Wrestling has just evolved. Sometimes I can like it, sometimes I don't, but what I saw in this match, on a show like this, I thought was pretty damn entertaining. So that's really all I have to say about that. Up next, we had the Intercontinental Championship match between Hiroshi Tanahashi defending against Switchblade Jay White. I haven't really been that exposed to Jay White up to this point. I've seen a little bit of his work in Ring of Honor, but I did not know about this character change until recently. He was on excursion in Ring of Honor, and then he came back to New Japan with this entire new Switchblade gimmick. And, he looks cool, the jacket and, the knife and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted to see exactly what he could do in the ring with a guy like Tanahashi, and he was pretty impressive. I will say this was probably one of the weaker matches on the show. Not the weakest, I think probably, maybe the Tag Team Championship match from before, that might have been, but among these, final four matches, it was definitely probably the weakest. But it was still pretty good. Of course, Tanahashi has just a really bum leg right now. I just can't believe he was able to still do what he was able to do in this match. But yeah, he has a pretty bum knee right now. And, of course, Jay White worked over that. That was, the main crux of the match, at least early on, working over Tanahashi's bad knee. But Tanahashi was able to overcome that, fight back from that. And the guys had a really good back and forth. Tanahashi managed to still hit his high fly flow move, and White kicked out of the first one. I don't know if I forget how many he hit. I think it was like 2 or 3. So he kicked out of the first 2, I believe. And I think even Jay White got to hit one of his finishers. I think it was the Kiwi Crusher. What's that forward leg drop or whatever. But Tanahashi kicked out of that. But in the end, it was one final high fly flow that did Jay White in, and Tanahashi retained the championship. I can see them, wanting to do big things with Jay White down the road, and they didn't want to pull the trigger on him just yet. But I just find it funny that, Tanahashi's pretty banged up right now, but yet they still keep the championship on him. But hey, even on a bum knee, he was still able to hit some really beautiful high fly flows, which of course, if you don't know, is like basically a frog splash. So, he still had the move perfectly, pretty much. But yeah, it was just funny to me that he, even still, they decided to let him keep the championship. But still a pretty good match, not great, but it was good. You want great, you want even better than great. Just the match of this show, the match of this show was built around, some of the best build to a big pay-per-view main event that I've seen in a long, long time. That being the match no one ever thought they would see, especially not in New Japan. That being Alpha versus Omega. Kenny Omega taking on Chris Jericho in I guess, what will be a one-off match, but definitely an incredible match. These two, any expectations you had for this match, these guys blew it out of the fucking water. This was a great match. Chris Jericho, oh my gosh, as a character overall, was fantastic in this match. This was definitely a great, heel Chris Jericho is definitely the best Chris Jericho, but this is a heel Chris Jericho we haven't seen, I don't think ever, to be honest with you. Definitely not in a long time, and I enjoy the stuff he does in WWE, but it's like, this was just a whole nother level. So, let's go through this entire match pretty much. So the match started pretty hot right away. Jericho locked in the walls of Jericho pretty early on. Omega, he got out of it. Jericho went to the outside, over the guardrail near the commentator area and all that kind of stuff. Omega did a dive from the ring over the guardrail, into the area where Jericho was at, but of course Jericho moved, and Omega ended up crashing through the American announce table and ended up taking out Don Callis while he was over there. Jericho ended up attacking Red Shoes, the referee who was over there. Did I mention this was a no DQ match? Yeah, that's why he started beating up the referee. This was a no DQ match. So he started to beat up the referee. He beat up the referee's son, put him in the walls of Jericho. So he was, being a classic dick Chris Jericho. And of course, Kenny Omega broke that up. They started to get back in the ring and they fought back and forth. Jericho, doing all the illegal stuff, busting out a lot of, well, not illegal, it was no disqualification. But he was busting out all kinds of moves on Kenny Omega. At one point, he locked Omega in the walls again, but this time Omega had a counter to it. He pulled out some cold spray that I think he's used in the past. He sprayed that in Jericho's eyes, temporarily blinded him. And when he was blinded, the referee was checking on Jericho and all that kind of stuff. And then he kind of like sidestepped Omega and sent him face first into a chair that was propped up in the corner. Then Jericho started to just punish Omega with the chair and ended up busting him open. In the build up to the match, we saw Jericho attack Kenny Omega from behind on one of the New Japan shows and busted him open. So he did the same thing here. So seeing blood like that on a New Japan show was definitely interesting. Omega went for the one-winged angel, I think 3 times in this match. He hit it twice, but the first time he went for it, Jericho ended up slipping out of it, but Omega ended up, Jericho slipped out of it, and then he managed to make his way over to the top rope, and Kenny Omega ended up giving him the V-trigger and kneed him right off the top rope to the outside, crashing through a table that was set up by Jericho earlier on in the match. Then later on, they're back in the ring. Omega goes for the one-winged angel again, but this time, so I think it was about 3 or 4 times he went for it. So he goes for it again, but this time Jericho counters it into the walls of Jericho. And of course, Omega, he was, trying to get out of it the best he could. He started, he started grabbing on the referee and he kind of pushed off on the referee to get to the bottom rope. So he finally escaped from it. And speaking of finally, he finally managed to hit the one-winged angel, but it was close to the rope. So Jericho managed to get the rope. And that's the only way we've seen that move broken up, because Okada, I believe that in their second match last year, the one that went to like an hour draw, that was how he kicked out of it. He didn't kick out of it. He managed to grab the rope. So we are yet to see someone kick out of it completely. And that played into the finish here. Jericho hit the code breaker, only good for a 2 count. And then he went for the lion salt, but when he went to the ropes, he didn't even make it off the ropes. And Omega smashed the chair into his back and ended up hitting Jericho with the one-winged angel on the steel chair. And that was it. It only took one one-winged angel, and Kenny Omega got the win. No rope break, just right smack dab in the middle of the ring, no kick out, and that's how you do a finisher, You see a match like, the main event where Okada can throw a bunch of rainmakers and everybody kicks out of it. You see in WWE, people hit their finishing moves all the time, except for Brock, who hits 1 F5 and that's it. Until WrestleMania, when Roman kicks out of it and gives him 2 spears or something like that and wins the Universal title from him. But, Omega, he hits that one-winged angel and that's it. That's over. That's OV for your ass. So, I appreciate, how serious they treat his move. But like I said, this match, it was amazing that this match even happened. It was surreal seeing Chris Jericho in a New Japan ring in 2018. That was just bizarre in and of itself. But, the two of these guys, they went out there and had a great match. Jericho, I know he's older, he's like, 47 right now. He's a lot heavier than he was when he was younger. He's not as fast as he was before, but the dude can still perform at a high quality level. And Kenny Omega, we all know how great he is. He just further proved that here. And the two of them, they mesh well together. I don't know exactly what my expectations were for this match going in, but I do know that these guys definitely exceeded it. And I don't know where it will be on my list at the end of the year, but I'm sure it will definitely be in my top 10, maybe even top 5 of my favorite matches of the year. I freaking love this match, and I definitely watch it a million more times this year, probably, until I get sick of it. Then we get to the main event, the final match. Well, it was a double main event, so we get to the second main event, the final match of the show, that being Kazuchika Okada defending the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against the G1 Climax winner Tetsuya Naito. The build behind this match was pretty good too. There's a 4-year story to this match. It was 4 years ago that Naito had a shot at Okada for the championship. This was the championship match 4 years ago, but that was a different time back then because Naito was kind of being given the Roman Reigns treatment back then, and New Japan was kind of pushing him as the guy that they wanted, in that spot, and the fans rejected him. So they opened up to a fan vote to see what match they wanted to see main event that show, and they chose the Intercontinental Championship match between Tanahashi and Nakamura, and Naito kind of got, pushed to the wayside. So ever since then, he's developed this new character, the Tranquilo thing, that kind of stuff with Los Ingobernables and all that kind of stuff. And now he's at a point where he's the most over guy in New Japan, in my opinion. He's definitely the most popular. And of course, Okada, he's been on fucking fire with this title reign, just having some of the best matches in wrestling with this title reign. So you put these two together, of course the crowd was hot for it, and they had a damn good match. Naito worked over Okada's neck for most of this match, at least early on. They were both on the outside, and Naito gave him like a neck breaker on the guardrail, and then another one on the apron. So, just like with Tanahashi's knee, you have Okada's neck here that they were building up that is sore, I think, from the G1. But Okada, he still, got his licks into. He hit a draping DDT from the guardrail to the floor on Naito. And then back in the ring, he got him in the Cobra Clutch. The reason that he adapted the Cobra Clutch submission was as a way to counter the Destino that Naito, that's his finisher. So Okada came up with the using the Cobra Clutch to kind of counter that. We didn't really see him counter the Destino into the Cobra Clutch, unless I missed something, but he still locked it in. And it made for some very dramatic parts of the match, seeing Naito get out of it. And then, both men hit their finishers. Like I said, Okada hit several Rainmakers, and maybe not as much as usual, but I do remember Naito kicking out of at least one, maybe two. He hit the Rainmaker. Naito hit the Destino, and had some really cool spots from that. It looked some dramatic spots from that, very close near falls. But Okada ended up hitting the Tombstone, but then Naito got right back up from it, hit the Destino, but then Okada got right back up from that. Just no finishers here. He got right back up from that, and ended up hitting a spinning Tombstone, and then the Rainmaker, and Okada retains the championship to close out a great show, a great match on a great show. Of course, Okada cut a promo in Japanese after the match, I'm sure saying something about Naito. But before that, like immediately after the match, it looked like both men were dead. I think even at one point they showed like, the people in there, they like opened one of his eyes just to make sure he was still alive or something like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. But nah, this was a really good match. I'm shocked that Naito did not win the championship. But hey, I don't know what they're going to do with that. Okada has been the champion for, well over 1,000 days now. So I don't know who they're prepping up to beat him. Maybe Kota Ibushi. I'm not sure. I thought this was Naito's night, but apparently not. I don't think this is the death knell for him. I think he'll be okay. But, we'll see. We'll see what they do. But like I said, a really good show, a really great start to the new year. I am a little tired. I am a little tired. I had the day off work, so I decided to, get up early and watch this show. Well, it's not get up early, but stay up late and watch this show. Kind of dozed off here and there, but everything that I dozed off on, I kind of went back and watched a little bit later. So, but like I said, maybe not the best idea. Either wake up early or just watch later in the day, that's probably the best option. But no, really good show. I enjoyed it. Omega and Jericho, definitely just incredible match. The 4-way for the junior heavyweight championship, that was a really good match. And of course the main event, a lot of great action on the show, and it'll be hard to top this show as the best show of the year, but man, I'm just ready to see other companies try. So, that's about it for my New Japan talk here. Like I said, great show. I enjoyed it, and hopefully all of you did too. So I guess I'll talk to you guys next time. See ya.